Okay. Welcome back to the second episode of The Backlog, a series where I go through 76 games in my personal gaming backlog and talk about my experience with them. And today we have Sonic Generations. Initially released in 2011, Sonic Generations was developed by the Sonic team and published by Sega. It's a 2D, 3D platformer that's a mix between the old Sonic that gamers from the 90s might remember, and the new-ish Sonic that gamers from the 2000s would remember. Fun fact, this is actually one of the first games that ever entered my backlog, and that was back in 2016, so this one has been long overdue for me. It was pretty well received on release, but does this game still hold up 13 years later? Well, let's figure that out by starting with the story, and if you don't want any spoilers, skip to this part of the video. First of all, what the fuck is up with this story? I fully believe the scriptwriters gave up with this one and just had children sit in an office and tell the story to them. The game drops you straight into the 2D Sonic side-scrolling action with absolutely no information. It doesn't even really tell you how to play the game. Then, out of nowhere, a giant time monster comes in and sucks everything up in this world. Then it cuts straight to modern day Sonic, and we're seeing him have a party that's immediately ruined by this giant time monster again that sucks up everyone. And that's the so-called setup. You are just thrown right into the mix and now gotta clear out levels. The explanation doesn't get much simpler, and it's not until the first act is done when your pal Tails comes around and explains something.
I think I figured it out. Yeah, me too. Doubles of us? Places and enemies from our past? We're traveling through time and space!
By the end of the story, you get this long monologue from Eggman and Dr. Robotnik. Yes, they are the same person, but they are technically different in this game. And it turns out the reason as to why this whole level clearing and friend sucking thing happened is because he wanted to finally defeat Sonic and needed help. So he went back in time and got help from himself to beat Sonic once and for all. And by the way, surprise, he ends up losing and is stuck in this weird all-white overworld for what seems like forever. As an overall story, it's a good first Sonic game. Nothing exceptional, but luckily I didn't really expect much from it. Where I did expect something was the gameplay. And to be honest, I thought I was... Wait, before we figure out what I was feeling, maybe you should subscribe. And why should you subscribe? Because this video took a long time to make, and I would greatly appreciate it. So, do it. It's free, and it supports the channel. Thank you. Back to your regularly scheduled content. Mentally challenged when playing this game. This is going to sound so stupid, but Sonic is fast. I didn't really expect him to be that fast. So fast to the point that I lost control of him countless times. It's funny because it felt like this was actually a small challenge trying to be able to keep up with him, and it eventually got easier as the game went on, which was nice. It feels pretty satisfying being able to keep up with him and his speed, although that was mainly in the 3D portion of this game. I never really got used to the 2D aspect, but I didn't really spend that much time in the 2D world compared to the 3D one. There were some key differences with both versions of Sonic. The 3D one was definitely more advanced and he had more moves to learn, but I felt that once I got them down, it was pretty smooth sailing from that point on. However, this game is definitely more geared towards the 3D Sonic, and that is very obvious due to the gameplay and the time you spend with him. The world feels different and more complete and full while in 3D. 2D Sonic wasn't the same story. It more felt like a Mario game than anything, and that is to be expected because he wasn't supposed to be that complex. I just wish there was a little bit more to him to make it slightly more entertaining and keep me more engaged. As far as boss fights are concerned, there are about 7 total that you have to do, and majority of them are with 3D Sonic. They're all relatively easy, but can provide some sort of a challenge because it isn't obvious as to what you should do in these situations. And sometimes the boss wouldn't be ready for you to hit it, so you get really close and then it would really never amount to anything. You feel this especially in the final boss fight. I unironically spent over 30 minutes on this fight because I would get so close to being able to hit him, but then I wasn't allowed to for some reason, and then he would just sort of zoom away. And on top of that, the boss drains you for all your rings as time goes on, and once you reach 0, that's game over. So being on a time limit wasn't a lot of fun. The platforming is also very familiar to all the old games, so if you were really craving that sense of nostalgia, but didn't want to break out the old game console to get that rush, this game offers the perfect solution for it. And to pair well with that sense of nostalgia, the soundtrack is right there with you and brings back some classic songs to make you feel like a kid again. It also allows the new generation to live through the best that Sonic has to offer. I mean, how could you even hate this track?
Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Can't stick around, have to keep moving on. Guess what lies ahead?
Takes me back to my parents arguing in the background while I'm rolling around at the speed of sound. The soundtrack is definitely the best part of the game. It stands out and had me bobbing my head up and down throughout the entire game. The art style was also very well done, and it still holds up today, which is rare to say for a game that is 10 plus years old. It looks and feels very similar to how I remembered Sonic games looked like when I was growing up, and that felt like a really nice touch. There's some really funny moments where Sonic's friends talk to you after he saves them, and then Sonic doesn't say anything and he just kind of gives a thumbs up or like a confused look. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm here for it. Awkward silence is kind of funny.
Thanks, Big Blue. That's the first time I've ever been stolen.
The game only had one issue with performance, and that was with certain cutscenes. Some of them, I could count how many pixels are on the screen. It was pretty bad. I noticed this was mainly towards the beginning of the game, and it sort of disappeared, but that was strange nonetheless. Overall, Sonic Generations is a good game, and it doesn't have any major issues. You could give this to a kid nowadays, and they'd have a blast, or pick it up for yourself if you can get it for cheap, and are just kind of craving that blast from the past, and something where you can escape reality easily. And with the remaster of this game releasing later this year, I may decide to pick it up and see what it has to offer. Maybe there'll be a video on that one as well. We'll have to see. Regardless, I would give Sonic Generations a 6 out of 10. And with that, I can now finally add Sonic Generations to the completed section of my games and remove it from the to be completed section. Thanks for watching. Peace!